Well, if you're in southeast Pennsylvania and southern New Jersey and points south and west through the Carolinas right now, you're getting clobbered. We've got severe thunderstorm watches up. We're going to talk about that. We're going to relish the humidity that's going to continue for days on end, and more thunderstorm risks on the way for tomorrow. And that's all straight ahead. You won't have to wait that long because it's the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast is sponsored by Amazon. You can shop Amazon, and remember, it's Prime Day right now. It's actually 4 days of Prime. If you shop on Amazon, use our referral link to take you there. Amazon throws us back a little bit of coin. You get to see the live stream commercial free, and it doesn't cost you 1 extra cent out of your own pocket. We appreciate very much those of you who have shopped our Amazon referral link. And Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link for this is on the descriptor to this podcast under the title on YouTube, as is the Amazon link. That's also pinned to the top of the chat board. So use the coupon code that we have for you, summer 2025, because if you do, you'll get
10% off. Wow.
You will, yeah. So.
And I also said, wow, looking at this amazing squall line that you just alluded to a few moments ago.
Very impressive.
Extremely impressive. And you're absolutely right, Joe. Anyone who lives from about central New Jersey, southwest down into southeastern Pennsylvania, Maryland, and across into Virginia and down into North Carolina. Wow, this thing really is loaded for bear and probably contains a very distinct threat at bringing damaging winds, drenching downpours. What more can you possibly say?
Yeah, southeast and south central Pennsylvania, by the way, are dealing with looks like 5 counties that are under flash flood warnings. Also, a number of counties in Maryland down through Virginia and into North Carolina, and we've got numerous severe thunderstorm warnings up. Before Joe flips to the radar, I just want to show you the wider view, and then he's going to take you on the local stuff. But here's what it looks like now, and you can see the yellow and green boxes. That squall line. This is the third. I think it's the third day in a row that southeast Pennsylvania is getting clobbered with severe weather, and the flash flooding threshold is very low. In other words, you don't have to get much rain to start setting off flooding because of all the rain that's fallen over the day before. And very impressive. That line, I guess the northern edge of that line is just south and west of Philadelphia, and then it runs all the way south past Raleigh, Durham, into west central North Carolina. So it's extremely impressive. And Mr. Rayo, who is also extremely impressive, is going to be taking you on a tour of radar, and I will be watching the warnings to see if anything new comes up while you're doing it. So if I interrupt you, Mr. Rayo, it's because we have a new severe thunderstorm warning that has come into effect.
Well, by all means, if there is something out there that you need to inform everybody, certainly step in. But here it is, folks. And this is the view from the Dover Air Force Base radar. And as we just mentioned, southeastern Pennsylvania. Now, when I say southeast Pennsylvania, initially, as the loop begins, it is advancing in on, I guess you can call it Pennsylvania Dutch Amish country, York, Pennsylvania, and Lancaster, Pennsylvania. But eventually, as time wears on, those heavy-duty storms are advancing on the Philadelphia area and northern sections of Delaware. And if you extend it, again, on a northeast to southwest line, also crossing through portions of Maryland. Now, the activity is also affecting, and we'll see that in a moment, Washington and Baltimore. The Mets are playing in the Camden Yards area tonight, the Baltimore Orioles, and so it is quite possible that we may have a delay with that game because of the weather. And again, some of this activity really very, very potent. You see the deep shades of orange and red, indicating that we do have storms that could very well bring heavy downpours, or maybe I should say drownpours, to some areas. The amount of
Joe, I just
rain.
wanted to tell you the Mets game has been postponed.
It has been postponed. So there you go. That's just a good reason with all of the wet weather that has ensued over much of Maryland tonight and in and around the Washington Baltimore area. However, I must tell you, Joe, that if this game had high level of importance, let's say this was not happening in July, let's say it was happening in September, and either the Mets and or the Orioles were engaged in a major struggle to get a playoff spot, and if there were a lot of people coming to Camden Yards for this game, I can assure you that knowing from the history of other ball games in the past, they would have done everything in their power to play that game this evening. They probably would have waited 2, 3 hours. And you could see here that actually the back edge of the precipitation is working its way through Garrett County in western Maryland and is advancing on the Washington Baltimore area. This is the Washington Sterling, Virginia radar. So, yeah, if the circumstances were a little different, I'm sure that they would have tried to get the game in, or they would have held up and waited this thing out. But it's July. I don't think the Orioles are in much of a position right now to challenge for a playoff spot. And what the heck? They could play it another day. Maybe they'll play tomorrow, a doubleheader. But right now, the situation in the Baltimore, Washington area is for heavy rainfall, and that rain will persist for a little while longer before it begins to let up later tonight in Washington and Baltimore. Let's go further south and west. Let's go down to Roanoke, Floyd County, Virginia. Look at that line. I mean, my goodness, it is a narrow, albeit potent line of heavy-duty showers and storms, which extends across eastern sections of Virginia, down into north-central North Carolina, and then across diagonally over toward the western end of North Carolina. And again, any one of these storms that's embedded in this line carries the potential for very heavy rain, flash flooding, gusty strong winds, and who knows, maybe even the isolated funnel cloud or tornado. It is a very, very potent weather system that is moving down through the mid-Atlantic area tonight. In a different perspective here, this is Raleigh-Durham, and you can see there's the line approaching Raleigh-Durham from the north and west. Not there yet, but it will be probably there in the next 60 to 90 minutes as it advances again in a southeasterly direction. And another little cluster, not really affiliated or associated, although kind of I won't say a break off. It just simply suddenly develops down here over southwestern North Carolina and then works its way northbound. You see, it's interesting. The line itself is progressing east-southeast, but this cluster here is developed and is now moving north, apparently trying to merge with the squall line over in western sections of North Carolina. I did see one, and I'm going to go up into New England here. There was, for a short time, and you could see it, not far from Hartford, there were a couple of stray cells that bubbled up, I guess, in the heat and humidity of the afternoon and early evening, and that little couple of blips here, if you will, popping up and then moving on an east-southeast trajectory over in central and east-central Connecticut. And there's another area right here, not too far from Worcester, that too suddenly bubbling up in the late afternoon heat and then moving on a southeasterly course. Now, New York City, we have not seen much of anything today. Turned out to be a dry day for the most part in New York, New Jersey, Long Island, and the lower Hudson Valley, although you do see this activity in southeast Pennsylvania and eastern Pennsylvania advancing slowly but surely, or creeping slowly but surely toward the east and northeast. And while nothing is happening in the immediate New York City area right at this moment, That's not going to stay that way. It will, over the next few hours, we'll begin to see some showers breaking out across the region. And after midnight, if some of the short term models are correct, we will be seeing some heavier doses of precipitation over portions of northern Jersey, the Hudson Valley, New York, and Long Island. So don't put away the umbrella just yet. You're going to need it, especially, I think, later tonight and after midnight. And it looks like, Joe, what you see here, this mass of wet weather to the west right now, it looks like that's going to be a part of the weather tomorrow in New York and environs. Looks like tomorrow could be a day where the threat for a passing shower or thunderstorm will be ongoing, and especially so since the dew points remain atrociously high, at or above 70 throughout the area. At one point today, the temperature at Central Park got to 92 degrees. However, factor in the high dew points and the heat index, the feels like temperature made it feel like it was closer to 100.
Oh,
What a depressing day out there today.
we're in one of these stretches where the dew points just refuse to go below 70.
Absolutely. And it's going to be a long time, as we've been saying for the past few nights, it's going to be a long time before we get a nice shot of drier, cooler air in here. And in fact, it may not be for maybe another week or two before that finally happens. So, um, everybody is, it's a grin and bear it situation, and people, I'm sure, are annoyed, maybe even suffering, if you will, especially those who don't have air conditioning or even access to a fan. But that's the way it's going so far this month of July, and it's going to continue to be that way, it looks like, for a while longer.
Oh, yeah. Certainly through the weekend, at least. Here's the wide view again of the radar tonight, and you see in the east, very, very busy. The storms are not severe once you get out of North Carolina, but they are producing some heavy rains and some thunder and lightning as you head down into South Carolina, into southern Georgia. Now, there's some scattered stuff near me. I am not hearing any rumbles of thunder yet, but my ear is, ready. It's right there. It's all ready to hear the boom booms if they come. There's some strong storms along I-20 out of Birmingham, between Birmingham and Atlanta, and they're just kind of sliding to the east, right along the highway itself. There's another patch of thunderstorms in central Tennessee that is moving eastward, not close to I-75, at least not yet, but they kind of are straddling I-40 up to the north. We do have some showers and thunderstorms again in central Texas, near the area where they had the devastating flooding. A couple of flash flood warnings are up for two counties in central Texas, and also some storms, excuse me, south of Dallas Fort Worth, and those extend eastward to the Louisiana state line. We have a few thunderstorms scattered in New Mexico. There was some flooding in a few counties there, some devastating flooding. And we have some severe thunderstorms working their way across South Dakota down into Nebraska, and also some showing up now in central Montana. Here's what it looks like on the satellite loop with the lightning strikes. Look at this. Just a solid line of these red blobs from southeast Pennsylvania to western North Carolina. Very well defined. A lot of lightning strikes going on. Also, a fair amount of lightning strikes in South Carolina, though they're diminishing, and diminishing somewhat also in Georgia and over in Florida. And then there's all the scattered stuff that's out to the west, and that severe weather that's blowing up now up in the Northern Plains. The Storm Prediction Center had a slight risk up to central New Jersey. They have a severe thunderstorm watch up from Route 78 south, much of eastern and southeastern Pennsylvania, down into Delaware and Maryland, and then kind of meandering its way through Virginia into western North Carolina. This severe thunderstorm watch that's up for central and south Jersey and southeast Pennsylvania down into Delaware is up until midnight tonight. You usually see them expire at like 7 p.m. or 8 p.m., but this one's going to last for a while. Now, tomorrow, We have a marginal to slight risk, marginal risk from northwestern New England and upstate New York. Virtually all of New York State in a marginal risk, as is much of New Jersey except the coast. Pennsylvania is in it, Maryland, Delaware, Virginia. Then it becomes slight risk again in central and western North Carolina and down through South Carolina and into Georgia. Also, we have an area of slight risk in western Kansas, eastern Colorado, the state of Nebraska, and a small portion of western Iowa. So that's for Thursday into Friday. Friday into Saturday, we have again a marginal risk from South Carolina, northeast Georgia, South Carolina, northeastward all the way up to Maine. The immediate coast of New Jersey and southeastern New England are not in it, but they are in the general thunderstorm area. And we have a slight risk from eastern Kansas northeastward up into Iowa. Should point out tonight we have a moderate risk from WPC for flash flooding. That's a 40 to 70% chance. And that is from north central North Carolina northeastward into southeastern Pennsylvania. And it's playing out because we have numerous flash flood warnings that have been that are up, and you see the large area of marginal risk goes up to New Hampshire and Vermont. The slight risk is just south of New York City and just south of Route 78 in New Jersey. Now tomorrow we have marginal risk again going up through upstate New York, the eastern half of New York State, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, southeastern Pennsylvania. It's not going to take much in those areas that are getting clobbered for the third day in a row to get flash flooding. Slight risk for a good chunk of Virginia, much of North Carolina, and into South Carolina, also from eastern Nebraska across Iowa, a small portion of southern Minnesota, a small portion of northern Missouri. Day three is Friday into Saturday, and the marginal risk is pulled southward in the east. So now it's just Virginia, North Carolina, southwest to South Carolina, central and north Georgia, much of Alabama into Mississippi. We have a slight risk from eastern Nebraska, northeastward into western and central Wisconsin, the marginal risk pushing up toward the Canadian border. And the rainfall amounts, which from the southern half of New Jersey southward, we're looking at 2 inches or more. And of course, what's the rule, Joe, with when it's thunderstorms and convection?
You could very easily double and in some cases even triple what you see on this map because of convection, solely because of the extremely high, well, not extremely high, but the unusually high dew point temperatures, the P watts, as some might call it, the precipitable water indices, indicating that there's a lot of moisture that could be wrung out of the atmosphere, more than what is shown here. So even if your area, for example, on this map indicates that you're capable over the next 7 days of seeing, I'm just throwing this out as an example, a half an inch of rain, it could very easily, with these dew points at or above 70, it could very easily be double or triple that. You could very easily see, instead of a half an inch, at least an inch, or maybe even an inch and a half. And for those places that are showing without that factor, let's say 2 or 3 inches, well, lordy, that means that there is very definitely a potential for significant or very potentially dangerous flash flooding. So keep that in mind. It's again the humidity, but the thing about that Joe just mentioned, we get toward the end of the week and into the upcoming weekend, the areas of marginal or slight risk of flooding begin to depress southward. And so while there's a chance, I saw somebody on the chat board make a remark, well, now Rayo's going for a chance of thunderstorms on Saturday. Well, I am. I'm going to mention that, but it's only a small chance, and it only will happen, if it does happen, late in the day or in the evening, and it won't be for a very long interval of time. Most of this weekend, I think, will be more often than not dry, but in those cases where there is a shower passing you by, or maybe a thunderstorm, watch out for a short time that it's around. It could bring down, because again of these high dew point temperatures, a very, very heavy amount of rain in a short interval of time.
You can't not put them in with those dew points where they are, and at the same time, yeah, for the vast majority of the time over the weekend coming up, it's going to be rain free. But there are going to be probably some pop-up showers and thunderstorms. You can't avoid it when you're sitting with dew points between 70 and 75 nonstop. You're living in a sponge.
Right. And I, 2 days ago, I mentioned, yes, I was taking a chance by saying that Saturday and Sunday, especially Saturday, would be a dry day. But I also have said more often than not here that once you go past 5 days in the forecast, and 5 days on a Monday means at the end of that period be Friday. Once you go past that, you're playing with well, you're taking big chances. I said, maybe there's a chance that we just might be able to eke out dry weather Saturday and or Sunday. But now it's not Monday anymore. It's Wednesday, and we're a couple of days closer. And I agree with you, Joe, with the way that we're looking at this moisture hanging in over our area. That yeah, you could see a shower or storm pop up anywhere, anytime, any place in the late afternoon, early. Well, we just saw that. I just showed you that on radar in
Yes.
parts of Connecticut and in Massachusetts. Out of nowhere, they had these little, you know, pop-up storms that were not only in evidence, but also they showed signs that they were they were conducive to producing some heavy rain in the very small area that they were occurring. So you cannot fully put away the possibility in this type of situation of a shower or thunderstorm not occurring. So it's kind of like a CYA
Yeah.
forecast
Gotcha.
for the weekend now. But again, much of the time this weekend should be dry, and it won't be until the latter part of the day that we'll see the possibility of some showery or thundery weather.
Well, the chairman's lurking in the background, Joe. Scott Briller hitting the tip jar. Thank you very much, Scott. Stay cool. Back to the WPC rainfall forecast map. Again, it's anywhere from an inch and a half to 2.5 inches on average, starting from 8 o'clock tonight, from South Carolina up to central New Jersey, and as we said, it's convection season, so you could easily wind up with double or triple that. Also in Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, we have a fairly large area of an inch and a half to 2.5 inches there. Everybody else is kind of in the half to 3 quarters. Some pockets where it's heavier, including the western part of Florida, the west of the West Coast, and areas in the West uh, in their dry season continue to see little or no precipitation going forward. So I'm going to just put the upper air up here for a moment and see what's going on. And there is a trough, and you see it here, this little indentation running through the Great Lakes and dropping down into uh, Illinois and Missouri. A little bit of a upper high that's off the east coast near Bermuda. Another stronger upper high in the southwest that's pushing up into the plains. And if you look at the lines going from west to east, they're not smooth. There are little indentations in those lines, and those are short waves that are rippling along in the flow, and that's what we've been dealing with here. And we don't have a real Canadian connection. If I widen this out even further and we take a look at what the upper air looks like, you want to have what you'd like to see if you're really desperate for dry air. You got to have a flow that comes somewhere out of Canada and into the eastern part of the United States. You have nothing like that right now. It's mostly west to east across the U.S. The jet stream is probably as far south as South Carolina, but it's weak, and the flow is coming pretty much out of the northern plains. All the cooler Canadian air is way up in northern Canada. So until we see something from there, try to push southward, it's going to be a real struggle to get the humidity out of the way. And we have more troughs that are going to be rotating through, more little ripples from time to time. And as each one goes by, depending on how strong it is or it isn't, you wind up with thunderstorms, either pop up scattered or something like tonight, where they're more widespread. There's another trough. The next trough of importance, if after this one goes by, looks like it'll probably be Monday, where you can see a definite indentation in the flow. And if we look at the overall flow out of Canada, a little bit of dry Canadian air is kind of getting down into Montana and North Dakota. Not much, but just a little bit. And as we move through next week, there is a stronger trough that amplifies into the plains and into the western Great Lakes, and then it just lifts right up into eastern Canada, northeastern Canada, and beyond. So we're still in this sort of west to east flow of non-cool air. Even though late in the long range, there's a vigorous upper low that drops down, but again, it does the same thing. It kind of reaches its axis somewhere in the Western Lakes, and then it just pulls right up to northern Labrador. So you got a ways to go here, I think, before we get any kind of significant cooling. And I guess the only other way we could do it is if there's some kind of backdoor front that shows up someplace, and I'm not really seeing any evidence of that. So we'll bring the European US map back up again. This is what it looks like. I'll just back it up. So this is what we're dealing with tonight and overnight. There's going to be areas of showers and some thunderstorms overnight from New England down into Maryland. And then tomorrow, because we're still going to have this mechanism nearby, we could fire up some storms from time to time and from place to place. Why is it not moving beyond the 12-hour? Oh, I see what I'm doing. I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me go back. So this is tonight, overnight. You can see there's a cluster of storms in there into tomorrow morning, and then there's still some around during the day, mainly right up and down the coastal plain, and then out. Friday starts dry, but then we see maybe a couple of storms that could pop up. Same goes for Saturday. Same goes for Sunday. And then as we move on to Monday, that's when we get something a little stronger. Maybe some showers and thunderstorms later Monday afternoon and evening. The European certainly looks pretty bullish with that. And that goes out. And then it looks like we might have a couple of days next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, where it doesn't do much of anything until the next system comes, perhaps sometime late next Thursday. And then after that, if you believe the European, maybe after that you get a little bit of a humidity break. Not much, but you get a little bit. But that would be 9 days from now. So you got a ways to go yet before we get to uh, that potential little gift, and I do mean little. In the tropics, just really quickly, there's nothing on the Atlantic side. There is nothing on the East Pacific side. And once again, there is nothing in the Central Pacific side. So there you have it in a nutshell. It is quiet, and we would expect the tropics to stay quiet over the next couple of weeks because that's what July does. It usually doesn't do very much as far as tropics are concerned.
And Harold Olson on the chat board says, I have no idea how some people just sit in their apartments with no AC, just trying to tough it out. How can they sleep like that? And it reminds me of the stories, and those of you have to be of a certain age to remember back in the 50s and 60s, there was a very well known and very popular storyteller, Sam Levinson. And Sam Levinson used to tell stories about his childhood. And one of the things he used to talk about was on very humid, sticky, uncomfortable sleeping nights like what we're experiencing right now, that he and his family used to sleep on the fire escape at night because that was the
Oh,
only way
yeah.
that they could find any way of getting relief. Was that was it? They didn't stay in the house during the night to get some sleep. They'd go out on the fire escape. And there's one episode of The Honeymooners. Those of you who are Honeymooner fans may remember the episode where Ralph found a suitcase filled with what he didn't know it was counterfeit, but he thought that it was real money, and he went crazy. He bought all new things for Alice in the apartment. He put a phone in, and he also put a phone in outside on the fire escape. And when Norton asked him why he did that, he says, "You don't understand, Norton. Now that I'm a wealthy man, I can put a phone outside so that on those hot summer nights when I'm out sleeping on the fire escape, if the phone rings, I can easily pick it up out there as opposed to coming back into the house to have to get it." I don't know whether or not did they have. Yeah, they had in 1955. They had air conditioning, didn't they? Back
Oh,
in those
yeah.
days.
Yeah.
So Ralph should have
Most
bought an air.
people, very few people did have air conditioning in 1955.
Yeah,
I don't think we got it. I think maybe like I'm gonna say 19 mid 70s maybe that we got air conditioning. My dad went out and bought air conditioners, the portable units,
yeah.
and put them in the window. He put one in the is in, they put one was in my parents' bedroom, and the other one was in the living room. So all the other rooms were hot. They couldn't cool off the whole house. But it was basically in their bedroom and in the living room. So unless you went to sleep in the living room, you had to sleep in a hot room.
Well, that's what my sister and I used to do on hot summer nights when we lived in Throgs Neck. There were two air conditioners. There was one up in my grandparents' room, and there was one in the living room. And so at night, rather than stay in our respective bedrooms, which faced toward the southwest, the sun beating down on the front of the house, which was made of bricks, and some nights the temperatures were still in the 90s, long after the sun set, we'd simply go downstairs and we'd have the air conditioner on. And what we used to do is, Joe, we used to tell stories about some of the relatives while we enjoyed the air conditioning. That those like, memorable nights, those summer nights when we would just like stay up at night and just talk about things while the air conditioner ran. And by the way, now I mentioned before, 92 today with a heat index close to 100. If you thought today was hot, this July the 9th marks the 89th anniversary of New York's hottest temperature of all time, 106 degrees in 1936. Now, the previous record was 104 in August of 1918, and since 1936, the hottest reading has also been 104, recorded in July of 1977 and July of 2011. And on that sizzling day, 106 degrees on July the 9th, 1936, when the mercury was at, again, 106 at 4 p.m., the relative humidity was 36%, producing a heat index of 119 degrees.
Wow.
And they were just also putting the finishing touches on the brand new Triborough Bridge, which I think was going to open either the following day or a couple of days later. I mean, could you imagine, working outside in those kind of conditions, trying to get ready for a big grand opening of a bridge, and you're out there on the bridge
Yep.
doing whatever to get it all set up in 100+ degree temperatures? Ah,
Mm, but they did it.
yes, they
So,
did.
so yesterday, if you were here yesterday, and most of the people on the chat board were here yesterday. I played a video showing my finished uh, garden that I created and landscaped all by myself. I started on May 8th. I finished on July 8th. Okay. Following me so far, Joe?
Yes,
Okay. So I was sitting outside on my. Now, if you look up where the flag is, uh, that's part of my deck. And where the screen door is, there's a portion in there that's screened in and covered. So I was sitting out there with my dog. It was around, I don't know, 11:30 or noon time, and I heard uh, what sounded like a very, very loud snap. Okay, but really, really loud. All right. Now, I want you to know that it was mostly sunny. There was not a breath of wind. Okay, when this happened. So I didn't think anything of it because I have trees, walnut trees and hickory trees, and I'm at the time of year now where if the nuts are starting to hang on the tree, they'll fall off and they'll hang bang on the roof, and I'll hear all these noises. So I didn't really think much of it, and I didn't go out on the deck part, but I looked out through the screen door and I didn't see anything. Anyway, my neighbor called me up about an hour and a half later and said, "You might want to look in your yard." So I did, and here's what it looked like. I have very tall trees all around me, and part of one of the taller trees, a big branch, a very big branch.
That's not a
Besides,
branch, that's a limb.
yeah, I mean, it fell off and landed
Wow.
square into my flower bed, lying right across the ledge that I have uh, with um, with my lilies and my impatiens. This is the bed that you can see the end of that. Um, and you can also see the Mary on the half shell that I have. She was not hurt by this, by the way. Oh, and that's something else. Uh, that's a beach house I'm looking at. But yeah, look at this. This is another view from the top of my driveway
And what would
covering.
have happened if you were out there, tending to your garden or tending to your flowers when this particular scenario evolved or happened?
Well, I wouldn't want to come on right now and say that you'd be watching the Joe show as opposed to the Joe and Joe weather show. Um, I'm pretty happy I wasn't out there. Yeah, I would think I would have heard the snap if I was out there working. I heard the snap because apparently it snapped, but it didn't fall off when it snapped. It fell off a little while after that. So you know, I'm just happy I wasn't out there. But it's just so funny. I just literally finished the bed yesterday. I put in the last plants, and then this happens today. Now, I it was very easy to clear up. So it wasn't a big deal. My neighbor came over, we carried it out. I cut I was able to use with the landscaping clippers that I have to cut most of the branches down, and then I just took a handsaw and I cut the longer, the longer part of it into pieces. So, you know, nothing. It didn't really hurt any of my plants, thankfully. Like, can you imagine that? I just finished, and then and then this happens.
Crazy, crazy.
Yeah, it
Well,
is.
what are you going to do?
Whoops. Wait, that was yesterday's.
I think it's time.
Why did it switch? It's doing evil things. I got to get my mouse. All right, hold on. That's the front of my house, which is also part of the landscape routine that I did. All right, so here we go. Anyway, that's my little story for today. I just wanted to share that with everybody. Um, so you have Briller Jeopardy tonight.
Yes, I do.
Yes, Frank Art. No wind. It was mostly sunny. It's not like we had a thunderstorm. It's not like we had some gusty winds. Nothing like that. It was as calm as could be outside. Anyway, go ahead. You have Briller Jeopardy.
Sometimes those are the days that you have to be concerned about the most because you're not really sure what's going to happen. Anyway, yes, we do have Driller Jeopardy tonight. Thank you again to Scott Driller for providing it to us. And this Driller Jeopardy, the average highs. We've been doing this average highs in the following cities, and we will start with in the month of July. The average high in the month of July in the following cities, starting with Hotlanta. Average high temperature in Atlanta, Joe, in July.
90.
Where's the bell? Ding, 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 ding. He's off and running, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. Craig Carberg said 91, and Mike Waterhouse Bonsai also had 90, as was the case also with Chuck Cardillo. And Christopedia, you came one shy of that with 89. How about Beantown? And let me tell you, these temperatures, the beans are really baking tonight.
Yeah, I bet. Um,
Average high in July in Boston.
I'll say 84.
A good guess, but a little bit on the warm side. Mike Waterhouse Bonsai also said 84, but Harold Olson a little closer at 83. Christopedia too cool at 79 for.
So Patrick Darcy's at 82.
And Patrick Darcy is correct. 82 degrees. That is your average July temperature, average high temperature in July. Now we move on to a place where the baseball game got rained out tonight. Baltimore.
I will say, I'm trying to decide if I should go 7 or 8. I will say 87.
You should have gone 88. You would have been a lot closer. Not a lot closer, but a bit closer.
Well, Rich
88,
Rothmanski's at 89.
And 89 is the winner. Baltimore or Balmer, if you're from that location. 89, the average July high temperature. How about Austin? Austin, Texas.
Um, I'll say 98.
Oh my goodness, close, Joe. Very, very close. You're in snake country with that 98.
Patrick Darcy says 99.
That's a little bit too high,
So
Patrick. So
then
we're
we'd
going
have
to
to
lose
find
you.
somebody to say 97. And that was Maggie P with
Maggie P.
97.
Maggie P. and Mike Waterhouse Bonsai and Chuck Cardillo, all with 97, and that is the correct answer. And here comes Buffalo. And I'm going to presume that the snow, the mounds of snow that were left over from the lake effect in January and February is pretty well gone now. But
I'll say
anyway,
for
average high is
Buffalo,
what?
I'll say 83.
A little too warm. Frank R had 83 as well. But
Bobby,
Bobby Livingsworth,
80.
Bobby Livingsworth got it with 80, 80 degrees in July, average high temperature. But that's not where we're going to end. We're going to end with the bonus, the bonus temperature, and that would be for Montreal. Montreal,
Hmm.
second largest city in Canada and the capital of Quebec.
Let's get warm up there. Uh, 77.
Not quite warm enough, Joe.
Oh, it's warmer than that? Wow. Um, Rich Rothmansky at 79.
That's even closer, but you know what? Bobby Livingsworth is going to make it two in a row.
80.
80, 80 degrees. That's also two in a row here on the list because we had Buffalo at 80 and now Montreal is at 80 degrees or 26 and a half degrees Celsius if you want to play it
Correct.
that way. Yes.
All right. I think that pretty well wraps it up for tonight. Just want to do one quick check. And just a reminder, as everybody knows, we're on live from 7:35 to whenever we end, which is usually around 8:15. It's now 8:18 Eastern time. So if you are watching the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast on the replay, obviously what you're seeing on the radars are dated. So you want to go to your local National Weather Service office, go to weather.gov and check out the latest weather information to see if there's severe weather going on where you live. And I'm just looking at the radar, Joe. I'm just going to bring this up, the wider shot that's got the flash flood warnings on it and the severe thunderstorm warnings on it. In southeast Pennsylvania, you can see all the green boxes that now include Philadelphia. There are still a couple of working severe thunderstorm warnings in Maryland and in a few counties in eastern Virginia. And we still have a lot of flash flood warnings in the Shenandoah Valley going into central North Carolina, and also a few scattered around in parts of West Virginia and into western North Carolina, and in West Virginia. There's not much else from that standpoint. And there's some heavy rain that is now moving toward central New Jersey, Trenton, and points northward, a few heavier downpours. So we're going to see that. We'll see how this holds up as we go through the overnight period. So there you have it. So thanks everybody for being here. Thanks to the chairman for hitting super chat tonight. And we'll see you all tomorrow at 7:35 for the last show of the week before we head into the weekend. Nighty night, everybody.
Good night, folks. Have a good one.